Section 6.5, and we're going to talk about more types of parallelograms. I don't know what page, 426. It's section 6.5. You can find the section numbers. We're going to talk about a thing called a rhombus and a square.
Can I ask you something?
A rhombus is another name for diamond, right?
A diamond?
Yeah, like a diamond.
Not necessarily. We're going to do a kite in the next lesson.
I know what kite is.
That's probably more like a diamond, I guess.
Is
Okay?
a kite like a regular kite?
Like a regular kite. I guess a rhombus, I don't know. Anyway, let's just take, I guess a rhombus could be considered like a diamond. It depends what the shape of the diamond is, I guess. Okay, but it's a rhombus. Now, if you look in the book, they use a different word. They use this, but it's the rhombi. That's the plural. I'll put PL in parentheses. That's the plural version of rhombus, okay? So it's rhombus is one, and then square is, of course, just one thing. Well, what in the world is a rhombus? I'm glad you asked. Let me, I think I have...
Mr. Hamrick, how come
What?
we have to learn about shapes?
Because shapes are everywhere.
But I mean, will we all use them in our job?
No. Whoever said that.
Well, then why
That's
am I
not what
learning about
that's not what education's all about. Education is to learn about everything that you possibly can.
even useless little
It's not
things?
useless. A lot of people use this stuff. Does everybody listen? Does everybody use this stuff? No, not everybody uses this stuff, but there's a lot of people that use this stuff. So we're trying to get an education, not just to get a job. You have been completely misinformed by whoever's out there telling you this stuff, okay? Because it seems like in the last, I don't know, bunch of years actually, people think that the only reason we go to school is just to go out and get a job. No, it's to get an education. It's a lot bigger than just getting a job. There's tons of jobs out there doing all kinds of things. It used to be, back in the day, a guy would get a job. Like the guys coming back from like World War II, right? They would come and they would get a job. You could talk to almost anybody that fought in World War II. There's not many of them left now because they're getting pretty old and dying off. But you talk to these guys, they would come back, they'd get a job, and they'd probably stay in that job for 30, 35, 40 years and retire in that one job. There's hardly anybody today that stays in one job at one place until they retire. There are people, okay, but it's very rare today. I mean, just the way the economy is, just the way that things are nowadays, the way the rest of the world, right, is producing things. We used to be the big producer of a lot of stuff. You know, it's not just a matter of getting a job and staying in that one job and only knowing one thing and doing that until you die, basically. Now you got to be able to do all kinds of stuff. You got to be able to go from one job to another. I have a friend that worked at the Avon company down on, he worked in the computers and stuff like that, and he would write code for the computers. But all that code is all out of date now. So he's having a really, really hard time trying to find a new job because they sold their business in Newark and they moved to Ohio or something like that. And now he's having a hard time because he was just trained in that one particular thing. So he's realizing now that, man, I wish I would have known a lot more stuff, you know? So it's good to broaden our mind and broaden our horizons because you don't know exactly what you're going to do the rest of your life. So it's good to know a lot about a lot of stuff, okay, about everything, as much as you possibly can. Are there people that use this kind of stuff? Absolutely, there's people that use this kind of stuff, all right? Even if you don't use it the rest of your life, what are you doing in here? I tell people all the time, you're learning how to think. You're learning how to be a problem solver. Okay, what job out there does not require you to be a problem solver? There are none. No matter how small of a job and a task that you do, you're always in a situation where you have to solve a problem. Did I say a math problem? No, but to solve a problem in general. So what this does, listen, what this does, it gets our mind operating in a certain way to see something that we've never seen before, right? Somebody teach you about it, and then you can use it, and then you can solve problems. That's what education's about. We're not here just to learn geometry. Okay, we're here to learn how to learn. You ever hear that before? That's what we're here to do. We're just trying to learn how to learn. Because you get out on a job, it doesn't matter if you were trained in college and in high school for a certain thing. You could ask almost anybody. Mr. Barry was an engineer. You could probably ask him, and I haven't talked to him about this, so you could ask him if you wanted to. He probably, when he first entered the job market as an engineer, he probably did very little of the stuff he was actually trained to do. I taught a kid back in high school when he back at my old school at Newcastle. He's an engineer today, and I would ask him, I'm like, well, what kind of stuff in college prepared you for the work world? He's like, well, nothing really. He said, yeah, I learned how to work hard and I learned how to learn. He says, but really, the stuff that I learned in college really didn't have much to do with this job I have as an engineer. Okay, so you gotta. But the thing is, he learned on the job. See, people were there to teach him what to do. But see, he was good at learning, right? Because he went through all those tough classes. He went through tough classes in high school. He went through tough classes at University of Delaware, and as an engineering major, and he learned this stuff, and he learned how to learn. And he told me that's the most important thing that I learned in college, because when I got on the job, they would tell you, okay, this thing does this, make sure you do this, da 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 da. And he learned how to learn, and that's what this is about. That's what geometry is about. So if you get kind of bogged down and think, rhombus, who cares? I'll never use a rhombus. I had a parent, I had a kid that told me, this was again at Newcastle. This girl was sitting in my class and she said, my mom said I can drop your class because she never used this stuff in her life, and so I'll never use it, so it's a waste of time, so I'm dropping your class. And that's what she told me. I was like, are you kidding me? That's a terrible thing for a parent to tell the kid, that I never use this, so you're never going to use it. You never know. You just absolutely never know. And look, she may never use that the rest of her life, but it probably would have helped her to be in a class to learn some things, right? And to learn how to learn, right? But she didn't. She dropped, and I feel sorry. You wouldn't believe how many kids write me, kids that I taught, now that are adults with families. Yeah, since I got out of college. So you wouldn't believe how many kids that I've taught in the past that have written me on Facebook and stuff, and I could show you one, just recent one, but I'm not going to. But he said something about, yeah, Mr. Hamrick, I remember sitting in your class, and it was a small class. I had like 5 kids in that class, and he says, yeah, I remember in there that you used to teach our class like it was filled with 30 kids in the class, and there was only 5 of us. She says, I'll remember. And then a couple other people, saw that and read it, were saying things like that. And they said the one thing that they learned in my class was to learn how to work hard, to do the work and to turn it in. And basically, they were saying they learn how to learn. They might not use that phrase, but that's what they were basically saying. All right. I didn't know I didn't really think about being a teacher until about halfway through college, and then the principal of my school at Newcastle said, because I graduated from there, the school's non-existent anymore, it's done now, but JL went there. I used to be JL's bus driver. Did you know that?
You used to be a bus driver?
At that school, yeah. A lot of them, I drove. Why is that so funny? But a lot of the male teachers, it was a small Christian school. A lot of male teachers drove a bus to make extra money. Yeah. So I drove a bus in the morning. I would get to school. Yeah, I would get to school before. Yeah, Brooke went there too, and I would get to school between 6 and 6:30 in the morning. Drive a bus for a couple hours. Get back around 8:30 for school to start. Teach all day, and then I'd drive a bus for a couple hours and not get home till about 5:30. Not get back to school till about 5:30. Then I wouldn't get home till about 6 o'clock. So it was a job, and so I said when I came here, I told them. I said, no way I'm driving a bus. And they never asked me to, but I told them, they said, do you have your bus license? I said, I'd expired, because it actually did, because you have to keep it updated every year. You have to get a physical exam, and you got to get it card and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Oh, you got to go through a lot of stuff. You got to go through a lot of training. Yeah, you got to go through a lot of training and all this kind of stuff. And if you lapse, you got to go through more training. And yeah, it's a pretty rigorous thing to be a bus driver.
So what is history?
All right, let's do this. So what? Why would you learn history? So you don't repeat it. Yes, that's right. What, history is? No, it's not. History is awesome. Because you learn. I wish I could say this exactly, but people say if you don't learn your history, you're doomed to repeat the past. If you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes from the past. So what we do is we learn what's happened in the past and what made countries like the Roman Empire. We learn about the Roman Empire and we saw what made them great. We saw what made them fall. And hopefully we don't repeat the same things from the past. I mean, history is outstanding stuff to learn. That's not exactly what I was getting at, but that is a phrase. That is a no. You're right. That is a phrase. But I guess you could see that, right? It's good to know about your past. It's good enough to know about your family heritage. It's good enough to know about your country's heritage.
That's not what we're
and stuff like that.
We're learning about wars.
Yeah, that's
What?
good. It's
Not
good to
our
learn that
heritage.
stuff. Look, for instance, like
No.
I was just flipping around last night. I watch a lot of history stuff on TV, and yeah, I watch some National Geographic, but I watch the History Channel, and they show stuff about Hitler all the time. But it's important. Listen, it's very important to know about how Hitler rose to power, how he controlled millions of people in his country, and was able to do the things that he was able to do. Because if we see somebody else in our day coming up and repeating the same kind of stuff, we know what they're up to, and we. Yeah, well, I wasn't going to say kill them, but we should be able to stop them at least, okay, to do that kind of thing. Saddam Hussein was doing the same thing. He killed.
Did we ever find him?
We
Yeah,
killed
we killed him.
We killed him.
I
They
didn't
had,
know that.
yeah, they hung him. They found him. He was sitting. He was crawled in this little hole
They captured
down
him
in the
for a little
ground,
bit.
and he was all scruffy, had a big long beard, and they dragged him out of there, and they had a trial and stuff, and they hung him, and they killed him.
Didn't they kill his
He
son?
killed. Yeah, he killed. I don't know if millions, but I would say tens of thousands of his own people. He gassed them. He had these poisonous gases, and he would drop them because he didn't like it was a racist thing, basically, because they were. I don't know exactly all the details. You could ask a history teacher here, but something about the Kurds, like it's a certain type of people that lived in Iraq. He didn't like them, and he wanted to get rid of them, just like Hitler. Hitler was a racist. I mean, he wanted the white Aryan race, and the Jewish people to him were like animals. I mean, they literally were worse than dogs to Hitler, and that's the way he thought. And so what did he do? He killed millions and millions, and not just him, but Stalin. Well, he had him killed. Stalin in Russia, in Soviet Union, they say that he probably killed more Jewish people than what Hitler did. I mean, of his own people, his own countrymen, the people in his country. I mean, it was terrible. I saw a show the other night. They lined them all up. They would drag them from all these villages in these woods and stuff like that. They lined them all up. They dug this big old huge trench, and they had them stand there, and they would shoot them, and then they would fall into the trench. In fact, they were saying they were wasting according to them. They were using so many bullets that they would put the people like side to side and try to kill two people with one bullet. And they put them at their head so that they wouldn't waste ammunition. Isn't that crazy? They were more concerned about the ammunition than they were people's lives. I mean, it's crazy. So why is it important to learn history? So we don't repeat those same kind of things. You know, if something happened like that in our country, we need to say, hey, look, it's happened in these other places. Let's learn from that, and let's not have it repeat. Okay, let's do rhombus. Here we go. I can change.
A little worked up there.
I can change on a dime. Okay, so here we go. What is a rhombus? A rhombus is a 5.
That's a
1, 2,
4.
3, 4. 4 sides. So it's a what?
Parallelogram.
Well, we don't know it's a
Quadrilateral.
It's a quadrilateral. Okay. Now watch this. Listen to me. It's a quadrilateral with all 4 equal sides. Okay, it's a quadrilateral with all 4 equal sides. Now watch this. If this is a quadrilateral and all 4 sides are equal, tell me something. Well, but look at this. That means the opposite sides are equal, aren't they? So here's a quadrilateral with both pairs of opposite sides. So that's right. So this thing must be a parallelogram. So everything that's true about a parallelogram, are you listening? Everything that's true about a parallelogram must be true about a rhombus.
And a rectangle too.
And a rectangle also, right. But we have a couple special things about a rhombus, and we'll get to it real quick here because we're running out of time. Talked too much. Okay, so watch this. Yeah, you can listen to it. Okay. Yeah. That's all right. All right, there we go. Well, I mean, it's important.
Your face is getting red.
Was it getting red?
History. History is great.
I do. It's good. I mean, all the subjects are important, not just math. Okay, don't just think because I'm a math teacher, I think the only thing's important is math. All the history, all the. But you learn. But you use anyway. I've talked enough. All right, here you go. This is a rhombus. Now look at this. Look at the diagonals. Now, are the diagonals necessarily equal to each other in length?
No.
No, they're not. Okay, this one looks a little shorter, doesn't it, than this? I don't have time, but I could have picked this up. Remember how we did this with the rectangle? Picked it up, flipped it, and it lined up exactly. This one won't do that. Okay, it'll be a little bit short. In fact, I think I can do this pretty quick. Let's copy, let's paste, and then let's flip it, transform, reflect. Okay? Oh, it's at a different angle and everything. So let me just do this. That looks pretty close. All right, now watch. If I take this, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that they're not the same length?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one's definitely shorter than this one right here. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so they're not the same length, but they do something very important. Now, it is a parallelogram, so what they do this. What is that?
They are
Parallelogram.
congruent.
They-
They're parallel.
They bisect each other. That's right. They bisect each other. So we know that because it's a parallelogram, right? Here's the one thing that's true about a rhombus that's not necessarily, listen to me, this is important. Here's one thing about a rhombus that's not necessarily true about all the other stuff that we've talked about. Okay, look how they hit, though. Look what angle they form when these two diagonals hit each other. Look at that. What do you think it is? 50? How about 90? That's a 90-degree angle right there. Okay, 50 would be slanted like this, wouldn't it? That's more like a 50, or maybe that's a 50. But that right there is a 90-degree angle. So what can we say about the diagonals of a rhombus?
They are 90 degrees.
Let's use a better geometry word. The diagonals of a rhombus. Make sure you spell it right. There's an H in there. You don't really, think that it should be there, but it is RH. The diagonals of rhombus are, give me one word. Perpendicular. Very good, Jay. Okay. Actually, let's put the symbol. Remember the symbol for perpendicular? Yep. Well, one up and one across. So the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular, okay, which means they form a 90-degree angle. All right. So watch. If I knew this angle right here was, I don't know, 30 degrees. What would this? I'm not going to label them.
300.
What would this? This would be 300.
No.
That's a degrees. 30 degrees. The little zero. That's a little zero. So this would be 60, wouldn't it? Because watch. 180 minus 90 is what? 90. Minus 30 is 60. So when I have a right triangle, I don't even have to think away from 180. I can just, because if I have a right angle in there, I'm always going to go 180 minus 90, aren't I? So these two will always add up to 90. You following me on that?
Yep.
Okay, all the stuff that's true about a parallelogram is also true about a rhombus, but that's one special thing about a rhombus. Okay? I think that's it about a rhombus. Let's talk about a square real quick. And we do. We'll make time. What do you think that thing is?
A square.
Can you say it's a square right now?
No, it's a rectangle.
No. Okay, but watch. What if I did this?
It's a square.
It's a square.
What is that thing right now? It's a rectangle right now because it's a quadrilateral with 4 right angles. Now watch this. What if I do this?
Square.
Now it's a square. So basically, a square
One side is
is two things. It's a rectangle, isn't it?
equilateral.
And it's what else?
Equilateral.
Well, all 4 sides are equal. Yeah, but what's a better word than equilateral? No, we just talked about it. A four-sided figure. A four-sided figure with 4... It's a rhombus.
Oh yeah.
Hey, what?
We just figured it out. Rectangle. It's true, but I'm trying to get you to use the word that we just finished using, okay? So it's a rectangle and a rhombus. Now watch this. Real quick, look at the diagonals, and then we'll be finished. This is pretty interesting. It's a rhombus, so that means that the diagonals are perpendicular. It's a rectangle, which means what's true about all 4 of these? All 4 of those things are equal to each other. So look at this. What's this angle right here and right here? Well, no, that one is 45, and this one is 45. Okay, let me give you a worksheet before you go, and then that'll be it.